Imagine staring at, a spreadsheet with like 2 million rows of supply chain data.
Oh, an absolute nightmare.
Right. Your boss needs to know exactly why third quarter margins dropped, and, well, the board meeting starts in 10 minutes.
Cue the panic sweat.
A full-blown panic. I mean, a few years ago, you would be frantically messaging your data engineering team, just praying they already had a dashboard built for this specific scenario.
Which they almost certainly didn't.
Exactly. But today, you just ask your system the question, and within seconds, a fully wire-framed interactive visual appears, highlighting the exact regional anomaly that caused the dip.
It really is wild how fast things have shifted.
It is. Welcome to Data Design with Mockup. I am thrilled you're joining us. This is episode number 10, and today we are tackling the evolution of AI data visualization in 2026.
A huge topic.
It really is. And for context, today is Wednesday, March 18, 2026. And the reason we're doing a deep dive into this specific source material right now is actually pretty simple.
Yeah, it's about survival at this point.
Right. Across every major industry, over 78% of businesses are now using artificial intelligence in at least one core business activity. We've just entirely crossed the threshold.
We really have. Using AI to manage data, it's no longer a futuristic, optional feature for early adopters.
No, not at all. If you aren't utilizing these tools, your organization is effectively operating in the dark.
Operating in the dark and, frankly, operating at a speed that guarantees irrelevance. I mean, the sheer volume of information being generated by modern enterprises right now is just staggering.
It's too much for human brains.
Way too much. We are far past the point where traditional manual methods of data analysis simply become slow. They actually break down entirely under the weight of the data flow.
The old architecture just wasn't built for it.
No, it was never meant to hold the ocean of data we generate today.
Which is exactly the mission for our deep dive today. We're looking at our curated sources to uncover how AI is fundamentally transforming the way we interact with that data ocean.
We're finally moving away from those tedious manual reporting pipelines.
Yes, stepping fully into the era of intelligent, automated dashboard wireframing and visualization. And to really grasp this, I want you to think about the friction of the old system.
Oh, the friction was terrible.
You had to, submit a ticket to a data team, wait 2 weeks for them to clean the data set, and then they would manually construct a static dashboard.
And the fundamental flaw of that old system was its retrospective nature.
What do you mean by that?
Well, those static dashboards were essentially historical artifacts by the time they reached your desk. Their primary function was to answer a single limited question: what happened?
Right, they were just looking backward.
Exactly. They required a technical expert to build them, and they offered virtually zero predictive capability. You were just looking at a snapshot of the past.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that shift from what happened to what happens next is huge.
It changes everything.
It's like the difference between reading a printed map to see where you've been versus using a live GPS that actively predicts traffic, spots a hazard 3 miles ahead, and, automatically reroutes you.
That's a great way to put it.
The printed map is just a static representation of the terrain, but the GPS is actively interpreting the live environment to dictate your future actions.
What's fascinating here is how perfectly that GPS analogy captures the mechanical shift happening in the background. AI isn't just making the map look prettier, it's running continuous regression analysis on the live data streams.
So it's constantly crunching the numbers.
Exactly. It automatically detects patterns. It scores anomalies based on statistical significance without anyone writing a rule to tell it to look there.
Wow.
And then, crucially, it recommends the most suitable visual formats for human interpretation.
So it's taking away the busy work.
Completely. By automating that detection and generation, the time teams spend building reports drops to near zero.
Which vastly increases the time they spend actually interpreting and acting on those insights, which fundamentally changes the day-to-day life of anyone working with data. If you aren't spending 3 days fighting with the BI tool to wireframe a dashboard, you can actually use that time to call the vendor and fix the supply chain bottleneck the AI just flagged.
You're doing the actual work, not just reporting on it.
Right. But let's push into how this actually plays out in the wild. Because we know that technology is predictive and automated, but the sources emphasize that its adoption is scaling at breakneck speed.
The why now factor comes down to the friction between data volume and human cognitive limits.
The spreadsheets are basically choking.
Exactly. Spreadsheets and traditional dashboards choke on the velocity of modern data. AI bridges that gap because it processes complex, multivariable data sets in seconds.
And as those data volumes grow,
The AI systems continuously update the wireframes and insights without requiring constant manual intervention. It scales the analytical power of your team infinitely.
And it is hyper-personalized, which is where the real world impact becomes really visible to the user.
But the personalization is incredible.
Like, the executives, the analysts, and the floor managers can all log into the exact same platform, but the AI dynamically wireframes a completely different dashboard based on their specific role and priorities.
Take the retail sector as a prime example from the sources.
Yeah.
Retailers are using these AI-powered visualizations for demand forecasting and inventory optimization.
But how does it actually work in practice?
Think about the mechanism. It's not just running a simple historical average. The AI is simultaneously weighing complex, overlapping factors, seasonality, upcoming promotional calendars, subtle shifts in external economic conditions.
Even weather patterns, right?
Yes, even granular weather patterns. If the AI detects a localized weather event forming in the Midwest, it instantly adjusts the inventory forecast.
That's wild.
And it dynamically generates a visual alert for the supply chain manager to reroute shipments, preventing a massive stockout before it even happens.
We're seeing that same mechanical leap in healthcare too. The sources highlight hospitals using AI to automate the incredibly burdensome reporting processes for clinical registries and performance metrics.
Which used to take hours of manual data entry.
Exactly. Instead of nursing staff spending hours manually extracting patient data to build compliance visuals, the AI just parses the electronic health records natively.
It just does it in the background.
Right. It automatically wireframes the compliance dashboards in real time. That immediately shifts administrative energy back into direct patient care.
Where it actually belongs.
But here's where it gets really interesting. If we are tailoring these dashboards so perfectly to individual users, showing the CEO a high-level strategic view, showing the floor manager a strictly operational view, and the analyst something entirely different, do we run the risk of building incredibly efficient echo chambers?
That's a valid concern.
Like, how do we stop the CEO and the floor manager from essentially living in completely different realities and losing a shared understanding of the business?
That is the exact anxiety a lot of organizations face right now, but it fundamentally misunderstands the architecture of modern data platforms.
Okay, clarify that for me.
Think of it less like people living in different realities and more like a sound engineer's mixing board.
Oh, I like that.
The underlying song, the core data, is the exact same file. There is a single source of truth. The AI is simply acting as an equalizer.
Okay, so adjusting the frequencies.
Exactly. It boosts the operational metrics for the floor manager, and it boosts the strategic revenue metrics for the CEO.
So the music is the same,
Yeah.
just mixed differently.
Right. The underlying reality never changes. The AI is just semantically mapping the data to the specific frequency that user needs to perform their job effectively.
That makes the mechanism so much clearer. They're acting on the same foundational insights, just equalized for their specific domain, which leads us directly into a massive shift in how these views are constructed.
The wireframing itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if the system is actively creating these distinct views on the fly, the actual mechanics of dashboard wireframing have to evolve.
And they are evolving radically. Generative AI is now completely automating the initial phases of dashboard creation.
How fast is this happening?
Well, to give you a sense of the sheer scale of this transition, Gartner projects that by next year, 2027, 75% of new analytics content will be contextualized for intelligent applications through generative AI.
75%. That's huge.
It is. We are transitioning from dashboards as static pages you read to dashboards acting as conversational assistants.
The sources talk heavily about conversational query resolution. Major industry players like Tableau and Power BI are making this the standard, but it's vital to understand the how here.
Yes, the underlying mechanics are key.
When you type in a plain language question like, why did our sales drop in the Midwest last quarter? The AI isn't just doing a basic keyword search.
Far from it. The system's natural language processing engine breaks down the semantic intent of your English sentence.
It's actually parsing the meaning.
Exactly. It identifies sales as a financial metric, Midwest as a geographic filter, and drop as a comparative trend command. It dynamically writes a complex SQL query in milliseconds, retrieves the dataset, and then evaluates the shape of that data to determine the visual output.
Wait, it decides the visual based on the data shape.
Yes. If it sees time-based comparative data, its logic engine knows to build a line chart or a waterfall chart, not a scatter plot. It is performing the logic of a data engineer and a junior analyst simultaneously.
But before you can even interact with those final visualizations, someone has to build the structural layout. You have to wireframe it so the user knows where to look.
The blueprint, essentially.
Right. And this is where platforms explicitly designed for this, like mockup.ai, are really driving the shift.
Mockup.ai is fascinating because it tackles the blank page paralysis of dashboard design.
Oh, that blank canvas is terrifying.
It really is. Traditionally, a business analyst would sit in front of a blank canvas trying to figure out where to place a KPI widget versus a bar chart, worrying about alignment and color palettes.
Spending hours just nudging boxes around.
Exactly. With Mockup.ai's Create with AI capability, that heavy lifting basically disappears. The user inputs their requirements or raw data structures, and the AI instantly generates a comprehensive wireframe layout.
It identifies the key patterns in the raw data and automatically builds out the visual hierarchy.
It's incredibly fast.
But wait, if the AI is essentially auto-generating the layout, dictating the hierarchy, and picking all the charts for us based purely on its own logic, aren't we just going to end up with a bunch of identical robotic dashboards?
You'd think so, right?
If the machine can do it instantly, why do the sources still insist that human design is crucial here?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to look at the friction between mathematical logic and human psychology.
Okay, say more about that.
AI is incredible at analyzing raw data and providing a highly logical structure. If mockup.ai sees 15 distinct metrics in a dataset, its purely mathematical logic might try to tile all 15 charts onto one screen because it optimizes for data density.
Which would look like an airplane cockpit.
Exactly, completely overwhelming. But human design provides something an AI completely lacks: empathy.
Empathy and dashboard wireframing.
Absolutely. Empathy for the cognitive load of the end user.
Ah, I see.
A human designer understands that the human brain can only hold about 4 chunks of information in working memory at once. If you present a user with 15 dense charts, they will experience cognitive overload and abandon the dashboard entirely.
Let's just close the tab.
Right. A human designer steps in and says, no, we need to wireframe this into 3 distinct tabs: an executive overview, an operational detail, and a deep dive.
So the AI builds the house, but the human arranges the furniture.
That's a great analogy. AI provides the raw architectural blueprint and massively improves design speed. But careful human design ensures those layouts remain clear, intuitive, and properly aligned with the nuanced psychological realities of the business users.
I love that distinction. The AI provides the raw logic, but the human enforces the psychological limits of the user.
Because the user is ultimately human.
Tools like mockup.ai take away the tedious drafting, allowing the human designer to focus entirely on whether the layout actually makes intuitive sense for the person who has to use it during a high-stress meeting.
And if that user interface lacks human clarity, you run into severe issues with adoption.
People will just reject it.
Exactly. People simply won't trust or use a system they find alienating or overwhelmingly complex, no matter how accurate the underlying data is.
Which pivots us away from just the design element and directly into the broader, frankly more dangerous need for human oversight.
This is the crucial part.
Because relying on human design for the UI is just one part of the equation. We also have to address the dangers of blind trust in automated systems, what is often called the black box effect.
This is perhaps the most critical vulnerability for any organization adopting these tools right now. The first consideration is data quality dependency.
The foundation.
Right. We must constantly remember that AI-generated wireframes and insights are entirely dependent on the underlying data they ingest.
So if the data is bad,
If your initial data pipeline is feeding the system incomplete, outdated, or fundamentally biased information, the AI does not know that.
it's just going to process it anyway.
Yes. It will confidently generate a beautifully designed, highly convincing visual layout that points to a completely misleading conclusion.
It's the old garbage in, garbage out concept, but heavily disguised.
I'd argue it's worse than that. It is authoritative garbage.
Authoritative garbage.
Wow. An AI will give you a beautifully formatted, completely wrong answer with total confidence. A slick wireframe from a tool like mockup.ai can make a fundamentally flawed dataset look like a rigorous, mathematically proven truth.
Because it looks so official.
Exactly. And that leads directly to the risk of over-automation. When charts are generated automatically, teams can easily fall into the trap of accepting the results at face value.
They just trust the machine.
They stop questioning the assumptions because the machine presented it so beautifully.
And if you are, say, an operational manager with a background in data science, that AI-driven insight really does feel like magic.
It feels infallible.
You type a prompt, an answer pops out, and you have absolutely no idea how the neural network weighted the variables to arrive at that conclusion.
You're just taking its word for it.
The sources make it clear that interpretability and transparent logic are essential. If the dashboard tells you to cut your regional inventory by 20%, but cannot clearly explain the causal factors behind that recommendation, you are going to be very hesitant to pull the trigger.
And you should be hesitant.
So what does this all mean for the people actually doing the work? It's kind of like having an advanced autopilot system on a modern commercial jet.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
That computer can process millions of data points, a second wind shear, altitude, fuel burn, and automatically adjust the flaps far faster than a human ever could.
But it's still just a machine.
Exactly. The computer does not understand the context of the flight. You still absolutely need a highly trained pilot in that seat. You need someone who knows how to read the underlying instruments, who understands why the plane is suddenly banking left, and who has the authority to turn the autopilot off if the sensors start feeding the system frozen data.
This raises an important question for you, the listener. How is your organization preparing its people for this new reality?
A reality where the tools are doing the heavy lifting.
Right, because there is a dangerous misconception that as AI reduces the manual effort of building dashboards, it also reduces the need for data literacy.
When actually it's the opposite.
The exact opposite is true. While you may no longer need to know how to write a complex SQL join, you desperately need the skills to interrogate the AI's output.
It's a fundamental shift in the necessary skill set.
Hmm.
We're moving from needing people who can build the charts to needing people who can interrogate the charts.
Exactly.
If you're an analyst listening to this right now, hearing that Gen AI can auto-create layouts might make you sweat.
Yeah.
You might be thinking, is my job just to click approve now?
Your job is shifting from construction to critical analysis. The value of an employee in 2026 is no longer in their ability to navigate complex spreadsheet formulas or spend hours aligning boxes in a wireframe.
So what is the value?
The value is in their critical thinking. It's their ability to look at an AI-generated dashboard and say, does this actually make sense given the geopolitical supply chain issues I read about this morning? Let me dig into the AI's logic.
They bring the real-world context.
Right. Addressing the change management aspect, training users to adapt to these AI-assisted workflows, is the only way to ensure these visualizations remain trustworthy and aligned with business goals.
So to bring all of these threads together for you, what we are looking at in 2026 is a total mechanical reshaping of how organizations turn raw data into actionable insights.
It's a completely new paradigm.
The heavy lifting of reporting, the tedious manual pipeline management and wireframe drafting is actively being handed over to intelligent systems. Platforms like Mockup.ai are serving as intelligent design assistants, translating raw logic into intuitive layouts.
Taking the friction out of the process.
Exactly. This transition fundamentally frees you up to focus purely on understanding the context of the information and making strategic decisions.
And as the complexity and volume of data continue to grow exponentially, adapting to these intelligent systems is the new baseline.
It's not optional anymore.
No, it is essential for making faster, more confident decisions, regardless of whether you are the CEO looking at a strategic equalizer view or the floor manager looking at operational metrics.
Which leaves us with one final thought for you to chew on as you go about your day. We've talked deeply about how generative AI and natural language processing are turning dashboards into brilliant assistants that can instantly answer almost any data question we throw at them.
They're essentially oracles at this point.
Right. But if the machine can perfectly answer any question instantly, perhaps the ultimate competitive advantage of the future won't be who has the best data infrastructure, or even who has the most advanced AI models.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Perhaps the ultimate advantage will belong entirely to the person who knows how to ask the best questions.
That truly is the next frontier of data literacy.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the evolution of AI data visualization. We hope it gave you some actionable insights to take back to your own teams and fundamentally change how you look at your next wireframe.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep interrogating the data, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.